The morning sun painted golden streaks across the Chicago skyline as Bianca Carter adjusted her navy blue uniform in front of the mirror. 20 years had passed since she first dreamed of flying while watching planes soar over her childhood home, and now at 32 she commanded respect as chief flight attendant for Skyline Airways. Her fingers traced the silver wings pinned to her lapel, a symbol of countless sacrifices, sleepless nights studying aviation protocols, and unwavering dedication to her craft. Another day in paradise, she whispered to herself, a ritual that had become as natural as breathing. The early spring air carried a hint of possibility as she drove to O'Hare International Airport, weaving through Chicago's awakening streets. Today's flight to New York marked her 5th year as chief flight attendant, a position she'd earned through merit and an unbending commitment to excellence. The pre-flight briefing room buzzed with activity as Bianca reviewed safety procedures with her crew. Her reputation for running a tight ship preceded her, but her team knew that beneath her professional exterior lay a leader who would go to extraordinary lengths to support them. "Remember," she emphasized, "we're not just serving passengers, we're creating experiences at 35,000 feet. Flight SK-1021 to New York began like any other. Bianca supervised the boarding process with practiced efficiency, greeting passengers with a warm smile that made each person feel personally welcomed. The morning light streamed through the cabin windows, casting a peaceful glow over the settling travelers. Everything ran smoothly until first-class passenger Gerald Montgomery made his presence known. A tech executive with an inflated sense of entitlement, he demanded to change seats after takeoff, insisting on moving to an occupied emergency exit row for more legroom. "I apologize, Mr. Montgomery," Bianca explained firmly, but courteously. "But FAA regulations require special briefing for emergency exit row seating, and passengers must be assigned these seats before takeoff. I can't authorize any changes mid-flight." Montgomery's face reddened. "Do you know who I am? I spend hundreds of thousands with this airline." Bianca maintained her composure, aware that dozens of eyes were now fixed on the unfolding scene. "Sir, I understand your position, but safety regulations apply to everyone equally. I'd be happy to note your seating preference for future flights." The situation escalated as Montgomery stood up, violating the seatbelt sign. "This is ridiculous. Get me your supervisor immediately." "Sir, I am the chief flight attendant, and I must insist that you return to your seat. The seatbelt sign is illuminated for your safety." Bianca's voice remained steady, her years of training evident in every word. What Bianca didn't notice was the quiet passenger in 14C, who observed the entire exchange with keen interest. Dressed in simple clothing and oversized sunglasses, the woman took mental notes of every word, every gesture, and every decision Bianca made during the confrontation. As the flight progressed, Montgomery eventually settled down, though his occasional glares spoke volumes about his wounded pride. Bianca continued her duties with unwavering professionalism, ensuring every passenger received the same high level of service, regardless of their behavior. During the beverage service, Bianca felt a gentle tap on her arm. The woman in 14C requested a glass of water, speaking softly enough that Bianca had to lean in slightly to hear her. There was something familiar about her voice, but in the midst of her duties, Bianca couldn't quite place it. "You handled that situation beautifully," the woman commented, accepting the water with a grateful nod. "Thank you," Bianca replied with a genuine smile. "Our goal is to ensure everyone's comfort and safety." The woman took a thoughtful sip of her water. "Tell me, Ms. Carter, it is Carter, isn't it? What drives you to maintain such high standards in your work?" The question caught Bianca off guard. Most passengers didn't take such a personal interest in the crew. "I believe that excellence isn't just about following rules. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels respected and cared for. When you're responsible for people's safety and comfort at 35,000 feet, there's no room for compromise." The woman nodded slowly, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Interesting perspective. Very interesting indeed." As the flight began its descent into New York, Bianca couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just transpired. though she couldn't quite put her finger on what it was. The woman in 14C had asked such precise questions, shown such careful attention to detail. But in the organized chaos of landing procedures, Bianca pushed these thoughts aside, focusing on ensuring a smooth arrival for all passengers. The familiar bustle of JFK Airport greeted the passengers as they disembarked. Bianca stood at the cabin door, maintaining her professional smile despite the lingering tension from earlier events. As the last passengers filed out, she noticed the woman from 14C had disappeared into the crowd without a trace. The return flight to Chicago was scheduled for that afternoon, giving the crew a brief respite. Bianca used this time to complete her incident report about Montgomery's behavior, ensuring every detail was properly documented. Her dedication to procedure had saved countless situations from escalating over the years. As she sat in the crew lounge, her phone buzzed with a message from the gate agent. There was some commotion at the departure gate. Gathering her things, Bianca made her way through the terminal, her mind already preparing for another potential situation requiring her expertise. What she found instead stopped her in her tracks. A small crowd had gathered near the gate, phones raised to capture photos. In the center stood none other than mocked Oprah Winfrey, her signature warm smile immediately recognizable despite her earlier disguise on the flight. The oversized sunglasses were gone, replaced by an aura of authority that commanded attention. "Ms. Carter," mocked Oprah called out, extending her hand, "I believe we have some unfinished business to discuss." Bianca's mind raced as the pieces fell into place, the careful observations, the pointed questions, the familiar voice. She'd spent her entire flight unknowingly under the scrutiny of one of America's most influential women. "Ms. Winfrey," she managed, accepting the handshake, with composure that belied her inner turmoil. "I had no idea." "That was rather the point," mocked Oprah smiled. "I make it a habit to observe people when they don't know they're being watched. It reveals their true character." The crowd pressed closer, eager to catch every word of the exchange. Mocked Oprah guided Bianca to a quieter corner of the gate area, away from the curious onlookers. "What I witnessed today was extraordinary," mocked Oprah continued. "Not just your handling of that difficult passenger, but your consistent leadership, your attention to detail, and most importantly, your unwavering commitment to your principles." Bianca listened, still struggling to process the surreal nature of the situation. "I was simply doing my job, Ms. Winfrey. Please call me mocked Oprah, and that's exactly my point. You're simply doing your job is exactly what I'm looking for." She paused, reaching into her designer bag. "I have a proposition for you, one that could change your life." From her bag, she produced a sleek folder bearing the Mocked Financial logo. "I'm in the process of revolutionizing my banking institution, Mocked Financial. We're facing a crisis of culture, one that requires someone with your exact skills to solve." Bianca accepted the folder with steady hands, years of service training kicking in despite her amazement. Inside, she found details of a position that made her breath catch: Executive Vice President of Customer Experience and Corporate Culture. "The salary is 7 figures, mocked Oprah stated matter-of-factly, "but more importantly, you'll have the opportunity to transform an entire organization. I need someone who understands that true service isn't about status or money. It's about dignity, respect, and unwavering standards." The numbers on the page made Bianca's head spin. It was more money than she'd make in 10 years as a flight attendant, even with regular promotions. But something else caught her attention, a note about comprehensive healthcare benefits, including coverage for her mother's chronic illness treatments. "This is overwhelming," Bianca admitted, her mind racing with possibilities and implications. "I know it's a lot to take in," mocked Oprah acknowledged, "but I've learned to trust my instincts about people, and you, Bianca Carter, are exactly what Mocked Financial needs right now." Around them, the airport continued its eternal rhythm of arrivals and departures. A plane roared overhead. It sounded so familiar to Bianca, it was practically part of her heartbeat. She looked down at her uniform, at the wings she'd worked so hard to earn. "I'll need time to consider this," she said finally, her voice steady despite the emotional turbulence within. "Of course," mocked Oprah replied, handing her a business card. "But first, I'd like you to see something. Tomorrow, if you're willing, I want to show you exactly why I need someone like you at Mocked Financial. Consider it research before making your decision." As if on cue, Bianca's phone chimed with a notification. Her return flight to Chicago had been reassigned to another crew, courtesy of Mocked Oprah's team. "Your accommodations have been arranged at the Four Seasons," Mocked. Oprah added, "Take the evening to rest and tomorrow see what could be your new world." The next morning dawned crisp and clear over Manhattan. Bianca stood in her luxurious Four Seasons suite, adjusting a borrowed designer suit that had mysteriously appeared at her door the previous evening. The fabric felt foreign against her skin, so different from her familiar uniform. A note attached had read simply, "For your day in banking, M.O." The suite's phone rang precisely at 8:30 a.m. Mocked. Oprah's assistant informed her that a car was waiting downstairs. Minutes later, Bianca found herself in a sleek black SUV, gliding through New York's morning traffic toward an unexpected destination. Not the gleaming, Mocked Financial headquarters she'd anticipated, but a modest branch in Queens. "The true measure of a company isn't in its corporate offices," Mocked Oprah explained as they pulled up to the branch. She had traded her designer clothes for a simple dress and minimal makeup. "It's in how it treats everyday customers in everyday locations." Their mission was simple but daring. They would pose as mother and daughter seeking to open a joint account. Mocked Oprah would play the role of a retired teacher with limited savings, while Bianca would act as her concerned daughter, helping to manage her finances. As they entered the branch, Bianca's trained eye immediately noticed details that would have escaped most observers. The security guard barely glanced up from his phone. The floor needed sweeping. A young mother struggled with a stroller at the heavy doors, while 3 employees chatted nearby, ignoring her obvious distress. They waited in line for 20 minutes, despite several empty desks. When they finally reached a banker, the young man's dismissive attitude was apparent from the start. He barely made eye contact, focusing instead on his computer screen as he rattled off account minimums and fees. "My mother has been saving for years," Bianca explained, staying in character while carefully observing the banker's reactions. "We want to understand all our options." The banker sighed heavily, making no attempt to hide his impatience. "Minimum balance for our premium accounts is $25,000, given your situation." He glanced at Mocked Oprah's simple attire. "You might be more comfortable with our basic checking account." Bianca felt her aviation training kick in. The same instincts that helped her handle difficult passengers now urged her to address this unprofessional behavior. But she remained silent, following Mocked Oprah's lead. "Actually," Mocked Oprah spoke softly, "I have a substantial inheritance I'd like to invest." She pulled out documentation showing available funds of over $2 million. The banker's demeanor changed instantly, his previously bored expression transforming into an obsequious smile. "Oh, my apologies. Let me get our investment specialist right away." As he rushed off, Mocked Oprah turned to Bianca. "Watch what happens next. This is where it gets interesting." The investment specialist arrived within minutes, practically running across the lobby. The contrast in service was stark and revealing. Suddenly, they were offered coffee, guided to a private office, and presented with elaborate investment portfolios. The same institution that had dismissed them moments ago now promised white-glove service and exclusive opportunities. Throughout the presentation, Bianca noticed something else. Not a single question was asked about their goals, dreams, or concerns. The focus was entirely on selling products, not understanding needs. It was everything she had been trained not to do in customer service. After 2 hours of investment pitches, they left the branch. In the car, Mocked Oprah finally broke character. "What did you observe, Bianca?" "The inconsistency in service based on perceived wealth is troubling," Bianca began, her analytical mind cataloging every detail. "But what concerns me more is the lack of genuine human connection. In aviation, we're taught that every passenger deserves the same level of respect and attention, whether they're in first class or economy. Here there was no real attempt to understand or serve the customer as a person. Mocked Oprah nodded approvingly. Exactly. Now multiply this experience across hundreds of branches, thousands of employees, and millions of customers. This is why I need someone like you. Someone who understands that true service is about human dignity, not dollar signs. They spent the rest of the afternoon visiting 3 more branches. The pattern repeated with minor variations: indifferent service until wealth was revealed, lack of emotional intelligence, and a transactional approach to human relationships. At one location, they witnessed an elderly gentleman being brushed off when he needed help understanding his statements, while a wealthy-looking client was escorted directly to a private office. As the sun began to set over the city, their car headed toward Mocked Financial's corporate headquarters. The glass and steel tower stretched into the darkening sky, its windows glowing with promise and possibility. But Bianca's mind was still in those branches, thinking about the missed opportunities to make meaningful connections with customers. The executive floor of Mocked Financial headquarters offered a stunning view of Manhattan's skyline, but Bianca barely noticed it. Her mind was still processing everything she'd witnessed during their undercover branch visits. Mocked Oprah led her into a vast corner office where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the twinkling city lights below. "This would be your office," Mocked Oprah said simply, watching Bianca's reaction carefully. "From here you would oversee the transformation of our entire customer service culture." The space was larger than Bianca's entire apartment in Chicago. A sleek desk of polished mahogany dominated one corner, while a comfortable seating area invited more informal conversations. The walls were bare, waiting for a personal touch. "The salary, as mentioned, starts at 7 figures, Mocked Oprah continued, settling into one of the plush chairs. "But more importantly, you'll have full authority to implement changes. I've seen how you handle difficult situations, how you maintain dignity and professionalism under pressure. That's exactly what Mocked Financial needs." Bianca ran her hand along the smooth desktop, her mind racing. The opportunity was beyond anything she'd ever imagined possible. Yet something held her back, a persistent tugging at her heart that she couldn't ignore. "May I be completely honest?" Bianca asked, turning to face Mocked Oprah. "I wouldn't expect anything less. Everything I saw today in those branches, the inconsistent service, the lack of empathy, the focus on wealth over human connection, it's exactly what I've spent my career fighting against in aviation. The opportunity to change that culture is incredibly tempting." Bianca paused, gathering her thoughts. "But I can't help thinking about Flight SK-1021, about every flight where I've had the privilege of serving others at 35,000 feet. A notification pinged on Bianca's phone, a message from her crew at Skyline Airways. They were preparing for tomorrow's flights, asking about her return. The familiar surge of excitement she felt at the thought of being back in the air was impossible to ignore. "When I'm in the air," Bianca continued, "I'm not just managing a cabin crew or serving drinks. I'm part of something bigger. We're creating an environment where people feel safe, respected, and cared for, regardless of their ticket class or status. It's not just a job, it's a calling." Mocked Oprah leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. "And you don't think you could create that same environment here, on a much larger scale?" "I believe I could," Bianca admitted. "But it wouldn't be the same. There's something about being in the sky, about the trust passengers place in us, about the immediate impact we can have on people's lives." She walked to the window, watching a plane's lights blink across the darkened sky. In banking, success is measured in numbers and transactions. In aviation, it's measured in moments, in the comfort we provide during turbulence, in the smile we bring to a nervous child's face, in the dignity we maintain even when faced with difficult passengers. A comfortable silence filled the room, as Mocked Oprah absorbed Bianca's words. Finally, she stood and joined her at the window. "You know," Mocked Oprah said softly, "I've spent my career recognizing potential in people. Sometimes that potential leads them to new opportunities, new challenges. But sometimes," she paused, smiling warmly, "sometimes it leads them to realize that they're already exactly where they need to be." Bianca felt tears welling up in her Eyes, but they were tears of clarity rather than sadness. The past 24 hours had been extraordinary, offering a glimpse into a different life, a different future. But standing here, watching planes traverse the night sky, she knew with absolute certainty where her heart truly belonged. The position at Mocked Financial comes with everything society tells us we should want, Bianca said quietly. Security, status, wealth. But what I've learned in my years of flying is that true fulfillment isn't about what we have. It's about who we are and how we touch other people's lives. Just then, another notification lit up her phone. It was a photo from her crew showing a sunset taken from the cockpit of their latest flight. The caption read, "The office view isn't the same without you, Chief." 1 month after her extraordinary encounter with mocked Oprah, Bianca stood at the front of Skyline Airways' main training facility in Chicago. The room was filled with eager faces, new flight attendants ready to begin their aviation journeys. As chief flight attendant and newly appointed director of customer experience training, she had been asked to share her story with the incoming class. "Aviation isn't just about getting from point A to point B," she began, her voice carrying the weight of experience and conviction. "It's about creating moments that matter, about maintaining dignity and compassion at 35,000 feet. Each of you will face challenges that test your patience, your professionalism, and your principles." The students listened intently as she recounted her experience with the difficult passenger on flight SK-1021. Though she intentionally omitted the identity of her mysterious observer, she explained how maintaining professional standards and treating everyone with equal respect had led to an unexpected opportunity, one that had forced her to examine what truly mattered in her career. "I was offered everything society tells us we should want," she continued, pacing thoughtfully across the front of the room. "A corner office in Manhattan, a 7-figure salary, power, prestige. But standing in that office, watching planes, across the evening sky, I realized something profound. Success isn't about the altitude of your office, it's about the attitude of your service." News of her decision had spread quickly through the aviation community. Skyline Airways, recognizing the need to retain talent like Bianca, had created a new position for her, combining her roles as chief flight attendant with additional responsibilities for training and developing customer service standards across the airline. "The sky has taught me countless lessons," she shared, her eyes bright with passion. "That turbulence makes us stronger, that the shortest distance between 2 points isn't always the best path, that true leadership isn't about authority, it's about service." In the weeks following her decision, Bianca had received an unexpected package from mocked Oprah. Inside was a handwritten note. "Your courage to stay true to your calling has inspired me to look deeper into how we measure success. Sometimes, the greatest leadership is shown in knowing exactly where you belong. The door will always remain open, but I respect and admire your choice to fly high in your own way." The package also contained a generous donation to Skyline Airways' Employee Education Fund, ensuring that more aspiring aviation professionals would have the opportunity to pursue their dreams. As Bianca concluded her presentation, a young trainee raised her hand. "Weren't you afraid to turn down such a huge opportunity? How did you know you were making the right choice?" Bianca smiled, remembering her own early days of uncertainty. "The right choice isn't always about choosing the biggest opportunity, it's about choosing the opportunity that aligns with your true north. For me, that will always be here, in the sky, making a difference one flight at a time." After the RTE training session, Bianca headed to her next flight assignment. As she walked through O'Hare International Airport, she passed the same windows where, as a child, she had watched planes take off and land, dreaming of her future in the clouds. The dreams had changed shape over the years, but their essence